The Arizona sun bled red and gold over the mesas, setting fire to the horizon. Daniel Carter shaded his eyes with one calloused hand and watched the smoke from the Apache camp drift lazily into the clear desert sky. It was the spring of 1878, and though he had spent 5 years among the Mescalero Apache as a translator and trader, there were still customs that puzzled him. Today would prove that more than ever. He rode his horse, Sage, into the encampment, the leather creaking beneath him. The people greeted him with cautious nods. He was trusted, but trust was a slow-growing flower in this land. Daniel dismounted, brushed the trail dust from his jacket, and followed the rhythmic sound of drums toward the council circle. Chief DeSotohay, a man of quiet authority and fierce dignity, rose from his seat beside the fire. His daughters stood near him, 3 young women dressed in soft buckskin and beads that shimmered like water under the dying light. Daniel had met them before, each more captivating in her own way. There was Nalin, the eldest, with sharp eyes and a quick mind, Tayan, the middle sister, proud and full of fire, and Ayoka, the youngest, gentle as the morning wind. "Daniel Carter," the chief said, his voice deep as thunder over the plains. "You have come as friend again. You speak our words with respect." Daniel inclined his head. "Your people have always treated me with kindness. I bring the trade supplies you requested, salt, cloth, and the new rifle parts." DeSotohay nodded to a group of young men to take the goods. The council murmured in approval. But Daniel noticed the chief's eyes glinting with something else, expectation, perhaps. "My daughters," DeSotohay continued, gesturing to the 3 women. "They have spoken your name with honor. You help our people, and you speak our hearts. You show courage when others show fear." Daniel smiled, a bit embarrassed. "That is kind of them." The chief motioned for him to sit. "We have spoken among ourselves. You have shown the spirit of Nantan Lupon, the wise coyote, a man who listens before speaking. We think you should belong to this people." Daniel blinked. Belong? He felt a ripple of uncertainty. Nalin stepped forward, her eyes soft but steady. "Our father says one who belongs must have roots here. A family." Tayan smirked slightly. "Perhaps he means a wife." Ayoka's cheeks flushed pink. She said nothing, but her gaze lingered on Daniel longer than before. Daniel laughed awkwardly. "I appreciate the honor, but I'm not sure I understand." DeSotohay leaned forward. "In our way, when a man shows respect to a woman of our tribe, when he accepts food from her, speaks kindly, and honors her before her people, it is as saying, 'Yes, I will stand beside you.' You have done this for my daughters." Daniel's heart skipped. I was only being polite." The chief smiled faintly. "Politeness is not taken lightly." The crowd murmured, women smiling knowingly. Nalin looked at her sisters, then back at him. "So you accept, then?" Daniel's translator's mind whirled. The Apache tongue was full of nuance. Accept could mean agree, honor, or even promise. And so, wanting to avoid offense, he nodded. "Yes, I accept." A cheer rose from the crowd. The drums thundered louder. The women ululated in joy. Tayan clasped Ayoka's hand, laughing. Nalin's eyes sparkled like sunlight on river water. Daniel smiled nervously, confused but touched. "Well," he said under his breath, "I suppose I've agreed to something." Chief DeSotohay stood, raising his hands. "It is settled. The spirits have blessed it. Daniel Carter has accepted, not 1, but 3 daughters of my blood." Daniel froze. "I'm sorry, what?" The chief's grin was wide and full of pride. 3 sisters. 3 hearts. They will share the work, the home, the song. It is good." The crowd roared in approval. Nalin bowed her head modestly, Tayan grinned with wild delight, and Ayoka shyly glanced up at him through her lashes. Daniel felt the ground sway beneath him. Wait, 3. The drumming grew louder. Before he could say another word, an elder woman placed a woven blanket around his shoulders, the bridal blanket, and the sisters each touched his hand, a sign of union and respect. In that moment, the young translator realized the truth. He had just agreed to marry 3 Apache sisters, and the desert wind carried the laughter of fate through the evening air. Daniel Carter had faced wild stallions, desert storms, and the occasional outlaw, but nothing in his life had prepared him for 3 wives. The morning after the ceremony, he awoke to the sound of laughter outside his tent, 3 distinct voices, each one different in music and mood. Nalin's laughter was smooth and calm like the rustle of leaves. Tayan's rang out bright and untamed. Ayoka's was soft, barely above a whisper, but it lingered in his chest long after the sound faded. He groaned, rubbing his temples. "Lord above," he muttered, "what have I done?" Outside, the sun was already high, spilling gold over the sandstone cliffs. The air was sweet with the scent of mesquite and sagebrush. As Daniel stepped out, he found Nalin kneeling by the fire, grinding maize with slow, practiced rhythm. Tayan was cleaning his rifle with more skill than he thought possible, and Ayoka was braiding long strands of horsehair for a rope, her small fingers quick and sure. They all turned when he emerged. "Good morning, husband," Nalin said pleasantly. He choked. "Husband." Tayan smirked. "That is what you are now, isn't it? You said yes." "I thought I was saying yes to dinner," Daniel blurted. Nalin lifted an eyebrow. "In our way, dinner is promise. You shared our food, you honored our father, and you accepted. You spoke yes before the people and the spirits. You cannot take back a word once spoken." Ayoka's shy smile faltered. "Do you wish to take it back?" Daniel looked at her and felt something twist in his chest. "No," he said softly, "I don't wish to hurt anyone." Tayan's eyes gleamed with mischief. "Then you are trapped, but do not worry, white man. We will teach you how to survive 3 wives." He wasn't sure if that was comfort or a warning. The days that followed were a blur of confusion, humor, and slow, unexpected tenderness. Nalin, ever practical, took charge of his life as if she had always been meant to. She reorganized his supplies, mended his worn shirts, and even improved his trade routes. She was wise and steady, the kind of woman who could make a campfire feel like home. Tayan challenged him at every turn. She insisted on racing horses with him at sunrise, teasing him for his clumsy Apache pronunciation. When he stumbled, she laughed until tears streamed down her face, and when he managed to say a full sentence correctly, she smiled like he'd conquered the world. Ayoka, on the other hand, spoke little. She moved like a shadow, quiet and graceful, bringing him water, tending his horse, or sitting beside him while he wrote in his journal. Her presence calmed him. When she finally began teaching him her songs, gentle, lilting melodies that rose like the wind, he found himself forgetting all the noise of the outside world. Still, Daniel couldn't ignore the stares he got whenever he went to town. The settlers whispered behind their hands. 3 Apache wives, one man muttered at the trading post. "Either he's lost his mind or found heaven," said another. Daniel just smiled faintly and paid for his supplies. He'd learned not to waste words explaining things no one wanted to understand. One evening, as the sun melted into a river of red across the horizon, he sat alone by the fire. The sisters were nearby, weaving baskets and singing softly. The sound rose and fell like breathing, one voice leading, another answering, the third humming between them. He watched them quietly and realized something strange. For the first time in years, he wasn't lonely. When Nalin noticed him staring, she smiled. "You are thinking much." "I always think too much," he admitted. "Back home, they'd say a man who talks to himself is crazy. Out here, maybe it's normal." She laughed softly. "Here, we listen to our hearts. That is not madness. Tayan tossed a twig into the fire. Then his heart must speak in circles. Maybe, Daniel said, smiling. But lately, it's saying things I don't understand. Ayoka looked up from her weaving. Like what? He hesitated, then said quietly, like maybe I was meant to come here. To meet you three. Even if it began as a mistake. For a moment, the sisters were silent. The fire crackled softly. Then Nalin rose, walked over, and touched his shoulder. Perhaps it was not mistake, she said. The spirits have humor. Sometimes they make fools of us to teach us where our hearts belong. Her words lingered long after she turned away. The next weeks brought hardship. A small band of outlaws began raiding nearby settlements. One afternoon, as Daniel rode back from a trade run, he saw smoke rising near the Apache camp. His heart lurched. He spurred Sage into a gallop, the horse thundering across the plains. When he reached the edge of the village, he saw two raiders fleeing with sacks of food, and Tayan running after them, bow and arrow in hand. "Tayan!" he shouted, drawing his rifle. A gunshot echoed. Tayan ducked, firing an arrow that struck one man's shoulder. Daniel fired once, clean, deliberate, and the second raider fell. The camp burst into chaos, people shouting and gathering what was left. When the smoke cleared, Daniel saw Nalin kneeling beside a wounded elder, binding his leg with strips of cloth. Ayoka was tending to frightened children. Tayan stood with her bow still in hand, eyes blazing but unharmed. Daniel rushed to her. "Are you hurt?" She grinned fiercely. "No. But they won't come again soon." He exhaled, relief flooding him. "You could have been killed." "You would have done the same," she said. Then, more softly, "You fought for us. For our people." "For my people," he corrected. "I belong here now, don't I?" For the first time, Tayan's teasing vanished. She looked at him with quiet respect. "Yes, you do." That night, after the wounded were tended and the fires dimmed, Daniel sat again by the embers, his rifle across his knees. The camp was calm. Crickets sang. The stars hung low and bright. Nalin approached him, her hair unbound for the first time. "The people speak of you," she said. "They say you have the courage of an Apache." He smiled wearily. "I only did what anyone would." "No," she said gently. "You did what family does." Then, before he could reply, she bent and pressed her forehead lightly against his. It was a gesture of